Welcome back to another video and a new entry into the Keystone highlight series. This is a video series which aims to cover many of Path of Exile's Keystone passive skills, discussing their mechanics and interactions and their use cases in various builds. And if you want to check out the full Keystone highlight playlist, you can find it here. And this one is for Eternal Youth. Now this Keystone was once upon a time a timeless Keystone prior to the changes in 3.11, when it was added to the core passive tree. But you can still obtain this Keystone in Standard League by using a Legacy Glorious Vanity Jewel if it's in the name of Zerfi. And it now resides on the left side of the passive tree between the Templar and Marauder start location. So Eternal Youth has 3 modifiers: 50% less life regeneration rate, 50% less maximum total life recovery per second from Leech, and Energy Shield Recharge instead applies to life. So this is a Keystone that takes a mechanic which is exclusive to Energy Shield, and that's the Recharge mechanic, and it applies it to life instead. Let's first take a look at the downsides of Eternal Youth. 50% less life regeneration rate, and 50% less maximum total life recovery per second from Leech. So these downsides are essentially making sure that you can't stack an extreme amount of recovery from many different sources at the same time, by putting a huge reduction on the 2 most common methods of life recovery, that being life regeneration and life leech. And so this Keystone will halve the effectiveness of those stats. And you can make use of the Zealot's Oath Keystone. This will apply any life regeneration modifiers that you have to Energy Shield instead, and modifiers such as percentage-based life regeneration will now scale from your total Energy Shield instead. The important interaction here is that Eternal Youth's less life regeneration rate modifier does not affect life regeneration being applied to Energy Shield through Zealot's Oath, as it's no longer life regeneration, it's now Energy Shield regeneration. However, if you only have a small amount of life regeneration or no life regeneration, you could instead consider using Vaal Pact. This Keystone completely disables life regeneration, but also doubles the maximum total life recovery from Leech. And when used with Eternal Youth, the upside of Vaal Pact cancels out the downside from Eternal Youth. So with no other modifiers to Life Leech, you'd have the normal baseline maximum Life Leech of 20%. So investing into life regeneration or Life Leech becomes a lot less favourable with Eternal Youth. But what about the upside that it provides? Energy Shield Recharge instead applies to life. Now, Energy Shield Recharge is a mechanic that is by default tied to Energy Shield. This mechanic would normally recover Energy Shield at a rate of 33.3% per second, and Energy Shield Recharge begins when there is a period of 2 seconds where the character has not lost any Energy Shield from taking damage. Energy Shield Recharge is interrupted by default if Energy Shield is lost through taking damage. It won't be interrupted by spending or sacrificing Energy Shield, for example like paying a skill cost using Eldritch Battery. Eternal Youth applies this mechanic to life instead. This also means that it's fully scaled based on life instead of Energy Shield. So with Eternal Youth, you will now have access to the Recharge mechanic which will recover life at a baseline rate of 33.3% per second. This recharge will only begin after a period of 2 seconds where the character does not lose any life from taking damage. And the recharge will be interrupted if life is lost by taking damage. Again, this recharge won't be interrupted by spending or sacrificing life. For example, through the use of Life Tap to pay for a skill's cost, or by sacrificing life with the Wrathpith Globe unique shield. You can increase the recovery from recharge with modifiers that grant increased Energy Shield recharge rate, such as the one on the Bated Breath unique belt. This will increase the rate that life is recharged while using Eternal Youth. Because the recharge mechanic is now recovering life, however, modifiers to Energy Shield recovery rate will not apply. But you can increase the recovery from recharge when using Eternal Youth with modifiers to life recovery rate, such as the one on the Chieftain's Tassadio Cleansing Water Ascendancy notable. You can also modify the amount of time that you need to wait for the recharge to begin from a period of losing no life from damage, with modifiers that provide faster start of Energy Shield recharge, such as this one on the Heartbreaker unique Rune Dagger. Because recharge is only interrupted by losing life from taking damage, Energy Shield and Ward become powerful barriers to buy time to allow life recharge to begin and recover your life after taking damage. Any damage that a character takes that is fully absorbed by energy shield or ward and therefore does not cause any life loss will not interrupt ongoing life recharge or prevent life recharge from starting. The Wicked Ward Keystone has the modifier Energy Shield Recharge is not interrupted by taking damage if recharge began recently. This modifier will work with Eternal Youth to prevent damage to life interrupting recharge if it began in the last 4 seconds. But be aware that the 40% less Energy Shield Recharge rate modifier will also apply, heavily cutting down the amount of life recovery provided by the recharge mechanic. Due to the recharge mechanic being reliant on the delay period of not taking damage, damage avoidance is a very useful stat to buy time for recharge to begin. Things such as evasion, attack and spell block, spell dodge, and direct damage avoidance modifiers like the one on elusive can fully prevent the damage of a hit so that recharge is not interrupted or prevented from starting. Eternal Youth also has incredible synergy with the Dissolution of the Flesh unique jewel in combination with Petrified Blood. Dissolution of the Flesh causes any life loss that would come from damage to be reserved as life reservation instead. For the purpose of Eternal Youth, this means that the character is technically not losing any life from taking damage, and is instead being reserved, and therefore this reservation doesn't interrupt recharge or prevent it from starting. Therefore, when you use Dissolution of the Flesh with Eternal Youth, the recharge mechanic is always active and cannot be interrupted. By also using Petrified Blood, your actual life will be at 50% for the purpose of its buff being active, but you'll still be able to reserve 100% of your life against damage. Petrified Blood's buff will cause Dissolution of the Flesh to reserve a smaller portion of the damage taken from hits, and a percentage of the rest of the hit is lost over time from your actual life. This portion does not count as damage and therefore isn't reserved, but it is still lethal if it would bring your life to 0. Because this portion is not considered as damage, you'll be able to easily recover it with the recharge from Eternal Youth, which will be active all the time. If you want to find out more about this particular interaction of mechanics, you can check out episode 1 of Interesting Synergies, which goes into detail about this setup. This is currently the most popular use of Eternal Youth in the game, typically on Rage Vortex Berserker builds that are using this combination of mechanics along with life stacking to gain a large amount of damage from the Bloodthirst support gem. The Berserker's Rite of Ruin Ascendancy notable causes a percentage of life loss per second based on how much rage you have, but this is also not considered to be damage, and doesn't interrupt life recharge. Many of these builds also use any life regeneration that they have to regenerate rage instead using the Calm Spirit Gloves, since they no longer need that resource, because they're using Eternal Youth. Overall, Eternal Youth is a niche keystone which has very specific use cases where it excels as a very strong option for life recovery, but it's unlikely to be a great option on the average build on this side of the passive tree without significant changes to the build to make it work. If this video was helpful, click the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I'm trying to grow this channel and I need your support. Please consider becoming a channel member today by clicking the join button below the video. Just like these guys, your support is appreciated. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.